Trump says he will penalize communities that don't cooperate, something that Texas Governor Greg Abbott is pushing too.
President Trump and Greg Abbott are saying that they want to cut off funds to anyone who does not participate in a voluntary program that would supplement arrest warrants. And they don't have legal authority to do that, either at the state or federal level.
And Doggett believes the new orders will pave the way for ushering all undocumented immigrants out of the country.
What we're not for are these mass roundups of people and confusing and intermingling legitimate immigrants who are here contributing to our community. The solution is to drop the anti-immigrant hysteria and work with us for comprehensive immigration reform.
We are working on laws that will, one, ban sanctuary cities, remove from office any office holder who promotes sanctuary cities, impose criminal penalties as well as financial penalties.
Sheriff Hernandez did not make a comment today regarding Abbott's threat, but in her video news release last week, Hernandez claimed that participation in the ICE detainer program is not mandatory. Now, does Governor Abbott really have the authority to remove Hernandez from office? Not according to a Texas representative.
Democrat Lloyd Doggett released a statement saying neither the governor nor the legislature has the authority to remove a duly elected sheriff. Congressman Doggett joins us live in studio now to talk more about the whirlwind of political threats that have followed since Hernandez made her announcement. Thank you for joining us, Congressman.
So good to be with you.
So, Congressman, what do you make of these threats from Governor Abbott toward the sheriff?
Well, about the only thing I agree with this dynamic duo of Abbott and Trump is that if we've got a dangerous criminal out there that poses a problem in our community, they belong in prison, whether they're a native Texan like I am or they got here illegally last week. Governor Abbott has absolutely no authority to deny funds to our community because he doesn't agree with the best manner of law enforcement. Sheriff Hernandez has devoted her life to law enforcement. She's doing a good job. It's not her fault we have this problem, but the political meddling of an official who lacks legal authority. If he had the authority, they wouldn't have gone to the legislature to ask to receive it several years ago and again this year. He lacks that authority, and he certainly does not have, under the Texas Constitution, the right to go in and remove a duly elected sheriff. I heard today also some parts up there claiming that they would pass a bill to criminalize our city officials who might disagree with them. Fortunately, we don't yet live in a Putin-type authoritarian government, and we ought not to be criminalizing people we disagree with. We ought to be trying to find genuine solutions to these problems.
So you mentioned the Texas Constitution. Let's talk specifics. What is there to prevent the Texas legislature or U.S. Congress, all Republican-controlled, from passing legislation that would force local and county officials to cooperate?
Well, that is a different question of whether they can pass further legislation. I'm talking first of all about what the law is today. And Governor Abbott cannot remove our sheriff, nor can our officials be penalized for disagreeing with Republican orthodoxy on immigration. There is no definition of a sanctuary city except what they might develop in their campaign platform. This sheriff is trying to enforce the laws in a way that will protect our families. She has indicated she is ready to cooperate with any law enforcement authority if they have a valid arrest warrant. But just getting some bureaucratic message in the mail that somebody might not be a legal citizen is not a legitimate basis for doing that. If they change the law in the future, then we will evaluate the law as it exists at that time.
Okay.
I hope they don't do that.
All righty. You know, you're going to be leaving for Washington, D.C. pretty soon. Let me ask you this. How do you and your fellow Democratic representatives feel about the next 4 years, especially the next 2 years?
It's a challenge, but I can't tell you how heartened and inspired I am by the outpouring of public concern that we saw here last week with the 50,000 plus people that turned out for the Women's March, and with the input I'm getting every day from my constituents from North Austin to South San Antonio. They care about what's happening. We respect the president, though he doesn't seem to respect us and many of my constituents. but we're going to be there offering an alternative point of view, being a loyal opposition, and using every nonviolent tactic to resist his efforts to interfere with our local law enforcement.
Final question, let's talk about bipartisanship. Is there a middle ground where Democrats can meet a Republican-controlled Congress?
You know, I sure like to find one. There's so many problems in this country that deserve bipartisan answers and solutions. But we don't find a president who in his inaugural address or with his allies in Washington or at the state legislature, when they began talking about putting in prison people that disagree with them on an issue like immigration law enforcement, that's not a good basis for bipartisan action. We can't stop trying, but bipartisan action requires both sides coming together and giving a little to get more for our country. I hope we can get there.
Called compromise. Okay.
That's right.
Congressman Doggett, we thank you very